Hey there, adventurers. I'm Norwolf. Welcome to my role-playing game realm. Today I'm going to take a quick dive into an old role-playing game called GangBusters. GangBusters is a classic tabletop role-playing game originally published by TSR in the early 1980s, set during the Prohibition era of 1920s and 1930s America. Blending crime noir with historical detail, the game immerses players in a gritty world of bootleggers, mobsters, private eyes, crooked politicians, and law enforcement officers. Players create characters from all walks of life, whether it's a hardened detective, ambitious reporter, or a small-time crook, navigating the violent, corrupt, and fast-paced world of crime and justice. GangBusters emphasizes investigation, action, and moral choices in a setting shaped by organized crime, political intrigue, and the American dream gone sour. So, I'm going to take a quick flip through the book here. So GangBusters 3rd edition rules streamlines materials into a single user-friendly volume. It offers everything needed to run thrilling Prohibition-era adventures in Lakefront City or similar 1920s urban setting. The introduction basically gives you, or it sets the tone for the game of the crime, corruption, and justice in the Roaring Twenties. Provides some historical context and describes the setting, Lakefront City, a fictional but detailed metropolis inspired by Chicago. We then get into the character creation. I'll go a little bit more into character creation after I do a quick flip through here. It goes through step by step the process for creating characters using percentile dice or percentile based abilities. Includes muscle, agility, observation, presence, luck, driving, and punching. There's rules for background or professions, depending what you want to call them. Law enforcement includes police, FBI, and prohibition agents. There's civilian professions like private investigators and reporters. And of course, there's criminals, gangsters, bootleggers, being part of a gang or freelance, or part of a crime syndicate. Gets into details about each of the different professions. And for the criminal side of things, gives you a bunch of information about making money through bootlegging, speakeasies, numbers game, bookmaking, casinos, slot machines, loan sharking, you name it, it's all there. Get into skills and equipment. The skills are pretty straightforward, and it gives a brief description of each of the different skills. And basically you start with one skill at 5,000 experience points, and then as you progress through the game, you can pick up other skills. Skills without a star, you can use it with a base 20% chance of success. You get into equipment price list, very, very basic equipment list. Gives you weapons, which of course is important when you're looking at a shoot 'em up sort of game. Basic clothing, rental, wages, miscellaneous expenses. And then, of course, we get into the core game rules around combat, skill checks, opposing rolls, and very special rules for firearms, vehicle chases, details for car crashes, or car chases and car crashes, various stats for vehicles. One thing you'll notice throughout the book is, the base rules are fairly straightforward, pretty basic, and then they sprinkle in a lot of optional rules all over the place. So you can, whether you call them optional rules or advanced rules, it kind of enhances or further fleshes out some of the rules that can be used within the game. Add a little bit more realism potentially. Everything from shooting at cars to shooting at pedestrians and traffic. The combat gets into injuries, fist fighting, various gunfight modifiers. Again, a lot of optional rules, explosives, and then we get into the judges section. And here it talks about game masters or judges running investigations, criminal enterprises, sandbox campaigns, how to maintain balance. Gives various random encounter tables, city maps, goal schedules, you name it. It has some pretty good, in a couple of places they give examples of play which are very helpful. Kind of helps you understand kind of the theme of what's going on. Lots of information about NPCs, NPC reactions, loyalty, persuasion, honesty, bribery, encounters, as I mentioned, typical NPCs and their stats. Long arm of the law, arraignment hearings, plea bargaining, trials, sentences. A little bit of information about the National Prohibition Act. And some information about the 1920s and 1930s, which helps both player and judge to kind of set the theme or understand the theme. Some of the major events, various tables, public opinion, politicians, churches, hospitals, jobs, bank loans. And then we get into Lakefront City, which is basically a fully fleshed out city divided into neighborhoods, each with key locations, NPCs, and adventure hooks. Includes police districts, political divisions, and areas of gang influence. If I remember, I'll throw a quick map of the city on the screen here. And basically it's color-coded for the different districts, and even gets into a couple of typical city blocks on the flip side of the map. And the buildings themselves on that map are color-coded by building height, so 1-story, 2-story, and 3-story buildings, what they are, where the police call boxes are, fire hydrants, lamp posts, all those types of things. And the city itself, or I guess the next chapter of the book gets into, in the judges section, gets into politics, law and order, the legal system, a plethora of NPCs, police department for the first ward, FBI agents that are running around, Bureau of Prohibition agents, shady side of the street, the Tolino mob, O'Connor gang, various freelance criminals, and talks about the city block map. So this is the key to that map I showed earlier. Again, lots of detail about different shops, the people in those shops, and some of the things going on in those areas. Got some decent art in here. I actually kind of enjoy that art. Pretty simple. And what else do we have here? Then we get into Day in the Neighborhoods, setting the stage. So again, some a series of related adventures to help kind of get you going. Gets into starting the players, what's going on, who's involved, various notes for the judge. And I won't dive into those too much, but yeah, so that's gives you an idea what's kind of going on in Lakefront City. And then we have city block map specific to the adventure that they have in here, and recommendations for other scenarios. And then at the very back here, they've got suggested readings, movies, different detective series, various things to inspire you in moving your game forward in GangBusters. And then at the very back, another appendix on just the Rogues Gallery, They've got various historical characters, everything from Capone and various others under famous gangs, Dillinger. And then there's a cheat sheet at the back with the sequence of play, NPC reactions table, modifiers. Again, if you copy that, and the character sheet. And of course, I haven't pulled the map out. Don't really plan to. I've got copies of the maps that I'd rather use than tearing these out of the book. As the chits or tokens that you would use on the maps. And of course, the map of the ward map of Lakefront City. So let's take a flip back. I'm actually going to pull up the PDF instead of flipping through the book here. Well, I'll go through the PDF and the book at the same time. Okay. So characters. So character creation. If I get to page 7 here, actually page 6 probably a good place to start. So the ability scores in GangBusters represents the natural talents and physical or mental traits of a character. These scores are typically rolled using percentile dice and include the following, or at least tests against these scored are typically rolled using percentile dice. Muscle is a measure of raw physical strength and how much a character can lift, carry, or do in terms of physical labor. Agility reflects coordination, speed, and dexterity, important for dodging, sneaking, and performing nimble actions. Observation, character's awareness, and ability to notice things, crucial for spotting hidden clues or detecting danger. Presence represents charisma, leadership, and the ability to influence or impress others in social situations. Luck is an abstract measure of how often fortune smiles upon the character, used in many miscellaneous situations, including avoiding death. Driving reflects the skill and control when operating vehicles, especially important in high-speed chases or evasive maneuvers. And last but not least, we have punching, which a combat rating represents how hard a character hits in unarmed combat. These scores help define not just what the character can do, but how they might approach challenges in dangerous and unpredictable situations. Let's do a quick character creation. I'm going to copy the handy-dandy character sheet. All right, let's get our dice handy here. And let's start. So, first off, we have our muscle, and it's basically determined by rolling percentile dice and then modifying, looking up the percentile dice on the ability modifiers table and adding that to the percentile roll that you've just had. So for muscle, we have a 66, which gives us a plus 10, so we end up with 76. And for agility, we have a 40, which gives us a 55. And let's see, observation, 79. Nice. Plus 5, so it's going to be an 84. Presence is actually D10 roll, similarly modified by a modifier. So our D10 is going to be a 5. That gives us plus 1, so it gives us a presence of 6. Our luck is going to be the percentile roll divided by 2, rounded up. So 49, so 25 for luck. And driving is a combination of agility and observation divided by 2, and again rounded up. So that's going to be 139, so 70, decent driving skill. And punching is going to be based on muscle, which is a muscle of 76, gives us a punching score of 4. I'm going to do a quick cut in here because I forgot to talk about hit points. So in the character creation, your hit points are determined by adding your muscle and agility scores, dividing that by 10 and rounding up, and then adding 5 to that result. So our character here, with his 76 muscle and 55 agility, so that ends up with 131, divide that by 10, so 13.1, we'll round that up to 14, add 5, so he's got 19 hit points. Now, hit points themselves there's two types of damage in the game, or two types of injuries. Wounds and bruises. Wounds are serious injuries to the character's head, bones, or internal organs. For example, all injuries caused by gunshots are wounds. Bruises are minor injuries. Most of the injuries from fistfights are bruises. Players keep track of each of the scores separately, and character who has wounds equal to or greater than one half his number of hit points suffers special effects. And if I get into some sample combat, maybe I'll touch on that a bit more. But anyways, back to rolling up the character. All right, and then after that, talks a little bit about ability checks, luck checks, and age. Typical characters between 21 and 26. So let's make this guy, I don't know, 23. His height is going to be influenced by his muscle. Muscle of 76 means he is between 5'9" and 6'3". So we'll just say, I don't know, 6'1". And his weight is going to be between 180 and 230. So let's make him, a little bit on the heftier side, 110 pounds. Then your choice for hair color, eyes, any distinguishing scars or marks, and general description. Money. Characters start with 2 suits of clothes, including coats, ties, wallets, watch, comb, toiletries, etc., $50 in cash, and any items a character normally would get from his employer, such as a police uniform and weapon, etc. Characters must use their $50 to buy anything else they want at the start of the game, or keep it for whatever else they need. And then it gets into some basic expenses like $20 a week to cover basic living, including rent, food, laundry, etc. Expect to pay taxes on any income, which you can avoid and run the risk of tax evasion, etc. All that real life stuff. And then it's an interesting comment about the game judge and money, and how the character should be keeping detailed information about their character's finances, and the judge can review it at any time. All right, the career. Depending on what career you want to go into, there may be some requirements. So, for example, the Prohibition agent needs to have a muscle of at least 40, an agility of at least 40, an observation of 45, and a presence of 4. So our character can qualify for a Prohibition agent. FBI agents. Muscle 50, agility 65, so he doesn't meet the agility requirements. So he can't be FBI. So police, muscle 50, agility 55, just makes it. Observation 45 and a presence of 5, so he could be a police officer if he wants. And of course, it gets into various details about the police, their ranks, the resources available to law enforcement, all that kind of fun stuff. Private professions. So private investigator, there's no prerequisites or qualifications. You basically need to have a license, of course, to be a private investigator, and the various powers associated with that, how your license could be revoked, and talks about employment, whether you're private or an independent or part of a partnership, those types of things. What else? The newspaper reporter. The only qualification here is that you have an observation score of 60 or higher. So again, our little dude here could be or dudette, I guess. I haven't determined that. Could be either, or it could be a newspaper reporter. And then when you get to the gang side of things, careers in crime. So independent criminals, again, for the criminal side of things, there's no prerequisites that I remember for these things. You could be independent, you could be part of a gang, be part of an organized crime syndicate. Really all depends on what sort of a scenario or campaign the judge wants to run, whether it's You're on the side of good, side of the gray side of good or bad, or the the side of bad. Anyways, yeah. So once we get through all the information about the criminal side of things, we get into the list. Oops, sorry, past the skills. So as I mentioned before, you start with a single skill that's worth 5,000 experience or less. And your starting skill, scoring that skill is determined by your percentile roll, again, modified similarly to how you modified the muscle, agility, and observation rolls. So I think this guy is going to be let's be a prohibition agent. And he's going to start with shadowing. And his percentile roll is going to be, 96. Wow. He's going to be particularly good. I'm actually quite confident that that is not modified. I think that's high enough to have a 0 modifier. So if I take a quick look in the book here, 96, yeah, definitely a 0. So a 96 is a 96. Let's call him the stealthy one. And of course he's got various equipment. I won't bother writing that in at this point, plus his $50. He's going to be rank 1. And yeah, so that's basically that. The character creation is basically as simple as that. The referee or the judge would typically tell you, if there's any weapons or anything associated with your profession, any sort of allies or contacts that you've got. You'll probably flesh those things out at the start of the game and go from there. So that is character creation. So let me just touch a little bit more on the actual professions. So prohibition agents or dry agents enforce the 18th Amendment, targeting speakeasies, bootleggers, and liquor shipments. They work for the Bureau of Prohibition and often face violent resistance or attempts at bribery. They're frequently understaffed and overwhelmed. Isn't that typical? Federal agents are members of Bureau of Investigation, later the FBI, working to investigate and dismantle organized crime. They're professional, well-trained, and have access to federal resources. They often face resistance from corrupt local authorities and are cunning criminals. Police officers. Cops work to uphold the law in the city, riddled with crime and corruption. Whether a street patrolman, detective, or a member of the vice squad, they can be straight-laced or secretly on the take. Their actions shape public safety and justice, or lack of it. The private investigators. These freelance sleuths operate independently, hired by individuals to solve crimes, find missing persons, or dig up dirt. PIs often operate in the moral gray zone, caught between the law and their clients, and the criminals they investigate. Newspaper reporter. These reporters chase leads, uncover corruption, and expose the truth, sometimes at great personal risk. They use their connections, wit, and tenacity to get the scoop. They can sway public opinion and occasionally influence city politics or police behavior. Then, of course, we get into the criminal side of things. Independent criminals. An independent criminal works solo or with a small crew, not formally tied to any gang or syndicate. These characters might be burglars, grifters, fences, or bootleggers running their own operation. They rely on street smarts, stealth, and careful networking to avoid the law and stay out of gang politics. They have more freedom but fewer resources and allies. Gang members. A gang member belongs to a local street gang. These groups control specific neighborhoods or engage in crimes like robbery, gambling, extortion, or running speakeasies. A gang member has protection, backup, and street influence, but is subject to internal politics, turf wars, and orders from gang leaders. And of course, there's organized crime syndicates. So an organized crime syndicate member, this is the highest level of the criminal ladder, a character who works for or is connected to a powerful crime family or syndicate. These criminals are involved in complex operations, large-scale bootlegging, racketeering, union corruption, or high-level bribery. They enjoy greater wealth and influence, but are expected to perform dangerous tasks and keep strict loyalty to their organizations. So that kind of covers off the gist of GangBusters. Overall, I think it is a really well-written system. Unfortunately, I don't think I quite got the exposure or I don't think a lot of people really knew about it back in the day. I've played it a few times in the past and really enjoyed it, but that was many, many years back. And I guess the other thing that we have for GangBusters is there was a number of published modules that came out for it. 5 to be exact. The first adventure, GB1, Trouble Brewing. The player characters investigate sabotage at a brewery. But what starts as a simple case quickly uncovers a web of gangland rivalry, extortion, and murder. The adventure blends criminal intrigue with business interests, offering ample opportunity for investigation, interrogation, and possible action-packed encounters with mobsters. GB2, Murder in Harmony. A prominent figure is murdered in the small town of Harmony, and the PCs are called in to solve the case. As they dig deeper, they'll uncover crooked officials, suspicious locals, and buried past. A strong murder mystery feel with an emphasis on roleplay and deduction, good for players who enjoy clues, red herrings, and unraveling motives. GB3, Death on the Docks. Trouble is brewing on the Lakefront City waterfront. Smuggling, labor disputes, and gang wars boil over as the PCs are caught in the middle of a dangerous and volatile situation. Ideal for gritty, street-level action, the docks are a powder keg, and the players might be the match that lights it, or the water that puts it out. GB4, The Vanishing Investigator. A U.S. senator visiting Lakefront City vanishes without a trace. The PCs must navigate federal interests, local politics, and underworld connections to find out what happened. A high-profile case with national implications. Stakes are high and the pressure is on, as this one is great for players who enjoy tense investigation and big conspiracies. And last but not least, GB5, Death in Spades. A rash of mysterious deaths at an upscale club draws the PCs into a high-stakes case involving illegal gambling, murder, and high society secrets. A noir-styled blend of glitz and grit with upper-crust NPCs, dangerous criminals, and plenty of shady goings-on beneath a glamorous veneer. And that wraps up our dive into GangBusters, TSR's Prohibition-era crime and justice role-playing game. Whether you're slipping into the trench coat of a hard-boiled private eye, cracking down on bootleggers as a federal agent, or carving out your empire as a cunning mobster, this game offers a gritty, cinematic experience unlike any other. It may not have hit the mainstream, but for those who love classic noir, Roaring Twenties style action, and an immersive storytelling, GangBusters is a hidden gem worth rediscovering. If you've enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your favorite era-themed RPG or GangBusters memory. Until next time, keep your wits sharp, your heater loaded, and your eyes on the shadows of Lakefront City.